Hey people, welcome to the channel, and in this video we'll put together the perfect 72-hour survival kit. There's a lot of similar videos out there, usually from people that don't have the same amount of experience. There's also information from government agencies that advise people, the population, on what is it they should have, how to put together these survival kits. Usually they will not include certain things that I consider essential, mostly because they are biased, given that they are, after all, government agencies. That is not something I have a problem with. So stick around, pay attention, and let's work on putting together the perfect survival kit for you. The first thing you need to incorporate is not a physical tool, it is knowledge, know-how, ability, skills. What you have with you at all times is going to be far more important than any specific tool. For that, I recommend the channel, and I definitely recommend my books, Survival Skills, Surviving the Economic Collapse. You have the French version of my books there too, Spanish versions. This is always going to be far more important than any specific tool that you may have. We go on. The second thing that I want to mention that is critically important is going to be this. Now, this is something that has been brought up in the European Union video. It's going to be your documents. It's going to be passports. It's going to be cash. I also suggest adding cables for charging your phone, your phone charger, and you probably want to incorporate some battery bank, maybe something like this. This is a little bit bigger, it's a little bit heavier, it does fit in here along with cash and documents, but it also not only has the battery bank, it has a decent size solar panel. Now, this is not going to be magic, this is not great, but it does charge. In my experience, it does charge. Even better, having a folding solar panel. It may be something you want to incorporate into your 72-hour survival bag. But this does work. And if this is all you have your passports, your documents, you have quite a bit of cash, you have your charger, your phone, and this, you're probably going to be a lot better set than most people that lost everything else and don't have any of these things. This is why this is your VIP bag, your very important papers bag, which I suggest you really have handy, maybe kept in a safe. This is going to be critical. Now we move on. The second thing that I want to bring up, and this is something that will not be mentioned by any government list, is going to be a way of defending yourself and ammunition. I'm not talking about anything crazy. I'm just talking about having a Glock 17, knowing how to use it, and the magazines for it. Why is this not mentioned by any government when they talk about survival kits? Because they don't want to compromise the idea of the use of force being their exclusive territory. It's going to be them that have the right to use force. They don't want to have people thinking this way. That is not something I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about you being well prepared. And I know this is crucial. I have been there before. This is maybe the thing that has saved my life the most over the years in a lot more dangerous places in which I live, back in Argentina, in my country. This is, for me, critical. And it's yet not mentioned in most of these government lists. We move on. Next thing you want to add, and this is also not mentioned, which is something also very important, which is a proper mask. This is a general service respirator used by the British military. This is a very high quality mask made by Scott. These are not cheap, but they do work. It's not like you're gonna save your life with a surgical little mask used by your dentist or the kind of thing you use when you're painting your car. No, I'm talking about a real actual threat. Nuclear, biological, or chemical. Whatever it is, this is gonna keep your face, nose, mouth, and eyes safe. It's not all. If you're talking about some serious chemical or biological threat, you may have to cover every inch of your skin as well. But if you think about realistic survival and preparedness, I have used this during the pandemic. I did not get sick while wearing this. When I stopped wearing it, yeah, I got COVID. I was just fine because it was not what they were saying it was. So everything was good. But I can tell you, this works. You can throw deodorants in the room in which you are. You will not smell a thing. That's how you know this thing works. And it's not just that. Look at what's happening with the volcanic eruption in Italy, volcano eruption, nuclear attack, or nuclear accident. These are all things that can happen. Air is critical to stay alive. You want to invest in a quality mask. I'll leave links below there for this or some other manufacturers from other mil-spec masks That is something that if you have the budget for it, I feel very strongly this is something that you want to incorporate. It's going to be along the lines of a gun. It's the kind of thing that it's not mentioned by any of these instances. Why is it that they not mention the gun? Because governments don't want people to have an idea that anyone but themselves reassures their safety. Why is it that they not mention this? Because this is expensive, and they don't want people saying, hey, if this is so important, why are you not providing this? Well, that's why they don't mention. We go on. Again, not my concern because I don't work for any government. I work for you, and I want you to be safe. We go on. Proper flashlights. And here is where the headlamp is critical. We're making the perfect kit. Get yourself the perfect headlamp. That's going to be a Petzl. Are there fancier ones, more expensive? Yeah. But this is what you see. Everyone from, people in preparedness to Navy SEALs wearing, along with night vision goggles that cost tens of thousands of dollars. This, along with a few batteries, will allow you to see in the dark in critical moments, while at the same time allowing your hands to be free. Not only that, you have the white light, you have the red light. It is a pretty nice little flashlight. These have been around for a long time. These are very high quality. I also suggest going with handheld flashlight with a little bit more power. There's going to be over 1,000 lumens. This is where when you need to search for someone, when you need a little bit more than just environmental, this is going to provide you with your needs for lighting during an emergency at a much better level than the average crap that you see people mention. This is rechargeable with a USB, and this will be charged with your battery bank, okay? We go on. Now we talk about starting fires. Fire starters, here is where you want to have 3 ways of starting fires. You want to have matches in a proper match case. You want to have a fire steel, know how to use it, and you want to have a lighter. Now that's a tiny one. I've been carrying that and using and experimenting with it. I suggest going with something a little bit bigger. That is jute cord. You can use some of these manila rope, but whatever vegetable cord natural material is combined with wax, that forms a nice surface which is not messy even in hot weather. Again, I've been using and experimenting and carrying this so as to know what I'm talking about, and it's a great way of having a fire starter along with your lighter. This is going to be your go-to way of starting a fire, and you have backup options. We go to the next one, which is going to be food and water. Now, instead of going anything weird or fancy, we're going to keep things nice and simple. We're going to go with a metal bottle. This is a clean canteen, stainless steel, and survival rations. Why? Because this is a 72-hour survival kit. You can survive plenty. You survive fine 3 days without food. But we will add an emergency ration. These last for 20 years. These can also be used to feed babies when mashed into a, like a little soft thing that you can spoon feed a baby with, right? So it's both for adults and for little children. Why stainless steel? Well, because it hasn't got that plasticky, nasty taste, which we're not that delicate. You will be fine if you drink water that sucks and has an awful plastic taste. But we can avoid that by going with stainless steel, and this is a survival kit that may go years without getting used. I don't want to have that crap in my water, but besides that point, this is a lot more rugged, a lot stronger. It will not break even if you throw your survival bag around, and you can also boil water so as to sterilize, clean it, and you can also cook inside this thing if necessary. Boil whatever piece of meat you came across with the matches, stainless steel. These give you more options. We go to the next thing, which is having some kind of tool. And this is where the European Union lady mentioned a Victorinox. Victorinox are just fine. I think she had a better knife. I think she had a soldier model, which is a very good knife to have in your survival kit. I would suggest going with this one over this one. But my advice, since we're making the best survival kit possible, go with a Leatherman. That is the one I carry as my EDC, but I have more, and this is the way to go. This is the best multi-tool a human being can have. There's others, this one is the best. Now, it is something that we need to say you have alternatives. Since the patent expired, there's quite nice versions being made by other brands. It is not going to be the same level of quality control and whatnot, but it's basically the same thing, and these actually work very well. For the money, honestly, I will not blame anyone going with this instead of this. If you want to put together the best perfect survival kit, go with Leatherman. If you want to go a little bit of a budget, go with this one. Either way, these would be my recommendation. Then we go to a proper survival knife. And when talking about survival knives, I actually had the privilege of designing my own survival knife. This is my survival knife made by Aitor in Spain, one of the legendary survival knives manufacturers. You've probably seen the Jungle King 1, 2, Black Bear, White Bear. Well, all of those made by Aitor. These are quality blades, and I had the privilege of designing my own survival knife with them, and this is what I came up with. This is my idea of the perfect mid-size survival knife, right? It will do pretty much everything that a medium-size knife is capable of. It's stainless steel, full tank construction, thick enough to be a sharp primer if needed, not ridiculously thick that it doesn't do what a knife is supposed to do. It has a nice penetrating tip. It has a nice upper body size as to chop beyond its size. And yeah, this is the way I conceive a survival knife. There's others. This is mine. And not only that, you have a great sheath. You have a sharpening stone, some cordage, and you have a little kit with, well, a small survival kit with a fire steel and a little fishing kit, and you have a small Skinner knife in your sheath as well, and screwdriver, capo. Anyway, it is freaking complete. I love this thing. It was a pleasure to have this made by Aitor, and yeah, this is what I would go if I have to pick one survival knife, because this is what I actually made. Now, there are other options, and one option that I really love is a Glock knife. These are super cheap. It's not the same thing, right? But it is a sharp piece of metal that will do many things that you need a survival knife to do. So for 25 bucks, my knife is like 150, 160. I'll leave links for all of these things below. But this is much cheaper, still a very good option for a survival knife. Let's go to the next thing, which is a first aid kit. Now, here is where you can go bananas. I suggest having a basic first aid kit with all of the things you need. You probably know. I would add a tourniquet, hemostatic gauze so as to stop bleeding, and also aspirin. Aspirin is rarely mentioned, and statistically speaking, aspirin will improve your chances of survival up to 25% if you get that aspirin when someone is having a heart attack. So statistically speaking, aspirin is the thing that is most likely to save the life of a human being during an emergency, and a lot of people don't even have it. So add aspirin to your survival kit as well as a tourniquet. Let's move on. We already talked about having a charger in your VIP bag. Here is where, depending on where you are, you may want to have a proper solar panel, one of these folding ones. This one, though, works well. So if you have a lot of sun exposure, this may be enough, but if not, adding a solar panel may be something you want to consider. Don't forget the charging cable and the charger for your cell phone. That's going to be one of the most important things you can have in your survival kit. Survival blanket, right? The Mylar blankets, I suggest having 2 of these. These are cheap and compact enough. There's no reason to not have 2. And one of them, I suggest having them in a sleeping bag format. At the end of the day, what you want to do is cover your body as much as possible so as to not lose heat. And these are the things you will see EMTs and first responders have, especially even if it's not very cold. But someone that is in shock, they want to cover them so as to not lose body heat. So these you want to add. Again, having 2 means it can improvise maybe a little bit of a better shelter, right? These are things that I think make sense. Compact, super important in certain emergencies and circumstances, especially in cold weather conditions, even more so. And this may not be enough if you live in a very cold location. But yeah, that's something I suggest having. I also suggest adding 550 paracord and a flat roll of duct tape. Very minimal form factor, and it has so many uses. It is so useful in so many possible situations. I really think this is something that you should have in your survival kit. Moving on to the next thing, proper radio. And here is where we've mentioned before, the UV5R. These are very nice, super handy. These have an FM radio, by the way. You can listen to the news in an emergency, but a little UV5R. I will go with something maybe a little bigger, more battery, waterproof, and it uses a USB Type-C, so I can charge it on the go. This would be my suggestion. Let's go on to actual emergency radio. I have that, but I will have backup, and this is the XH Data emergency radio. These are very well made. You not only have the crank and the little panel, you have a lantern here on the side which you can use, and flashlights, but these also, not only that, they have also FM and shortwave radio as well. So yeah, this is a proper emergency radio from a quality manufacturer like XH Data. We go on to the next thing, which is having ways of filtering water. Now here you can go, you will have some water, which is going to be crucial, but I suggest having ways of filtering water. It could be something as simple as a live straw you use as a little drawing there says, and if you don't want to go into a puddle and drink straight out of it, you can go with something like this. There's a variety of filters. Have at least one, even if it's the simple live straw. At least you have some way, some form of water filtration if necessary. Let's go on to the last part here, and that's gonna be a set of clothing in a sealed bag. It's gonna be something simple depending on your environment. If you live in warmer weathers, maybe you don't need that much. There's gonna be Under Armour and shorts and underwear, and also wet wipes. Wet wipes are critical. I was just seeing a video of soldiers in Ukraine. Those guys love wet wipes. Soldiers in general love wet wipes. It's the only way you can have some resemblance of cleanliness and so on. So set of clothes, wet wipes, all sealed in a waterproof bag so as to avoid any, this getting wet. And I would even look into some of these socks that have a sole. If you're barefoot, some of these super thin footwear that gives you like the sensation of barefoot, those are super thin. There's some that are very affordable, and that could go in here so as to have a full set to change into if you lose everything else. Guys, that is my perfect 72-hour survival kit bag. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And by the way, if you enjoyed the video, subscribe. You will have the button somewhere over here and some other video suggestion. Take care.